Okay, hello and welcome everybody. My name is Meg Sagaria Barrett. I'm the Integration Partnerships Coordinator at the Colorado Refugee Services Program. We are the state refugee office here in Colorado. And today I'm actually wearing my Colorado Refugee Connect hat. This is a collaborative project involving each of the longstanding refugee resettlement agencies in Colorado, International Rescue Committee, African Community Center, and Lutheran Family Services, alongside the State Refugee Office. Next slide. Okay, great, thank you. We're jumping in, seeing how this works. So just a little bit about the initiatives that Colorado Refugee Connect leads together. So one of the initiatives we lead is the Colorado Refugee Speakers Bureau. This is a really incredible group of people with lived experience as refugees. I'll talk a little bit more about this group in a moment, but just kind of want to champion and highlight this particular group. We also support the, nope, you're great, you're fine. The Colorado Refugee Connect website, which I'll share a little bit more about as well. And then we host some great training and educational events like today's webinar. So just want to highlight the work that this whole group does. I also want to appreciate my colleagues. So I have a colleague, Michaela, you can hear me talking to her in the background. She will be coordinating today's webinar. She's doing a great job. She'll have to kind of divine and figure out when we need to switch slides. So just we'll be gracious with her. Thank you, Michaela from Lutheran, for that help. And then Emma from the African Community Center is joining you all as an attendee to say, hey, looks good. Hey, we can't see anything. Hey, we can't hear anything. So really a team effort, even though they have put my face on the front of the webinar. Now to the next slide.
The Colorado Refugee Speakers Bureau
creates connection and understanding
between refugees and the receiving community
in order to build a more inclusive,
vibrant,
and cohesive Colorado.
So they all say it much, much better than I do. The Colorado Refugee Speakers Bureau is a real kind of gift and resource for our whole community. It's folks with lived experience of forced migration. And this is just a way for you all to think in terms of being refugee service providers yourselves, folks who work with refugees, folks who are advocating for refugees. What are some of the different ways we can be more strategic about how we're collaborating with this group? It's folks who've got all kinds of backgrounds around professional backgrounds, educational backgrounds, language backgrounds, national origin backgrounds, things like that. They love to talk to legislators. They love to talk to state agencies, people in nonprofits, faith groups, etc. And so just continue to think about ways that you can collaborate with this particular group. There's a simple request a speaker form at the bottom of the website, but also you can just reach out to the Colorado Refugee Speakers Bureau email or the Colorado Refugee Connect email to say, hey, I have an idea. I want to think this through. But that's really an asset for the entire network. Next slide. And the organizational directory. So I had referenced the Colorado Refugee Connect website. One of the pages on that website is a directory, a searchable directory of organizations that are doing some kind of refugee serving program. We have more than 90 organizations in that directory, which is amazing. That's all the way across the state of Colorado. It was recently updated in early 2025. So thanks to all of you who helped give your entries, update your information, that the information is only as good as our partners can help us for it to be. And you can search by region. So you could say Northern Colorado, Colorado Springs. I'm looking in Thornton, I'm looking in Aurora. You can do by city or town. And then you can also do it by service area. So you could pick youth development, or you could pick workforce development, ESL, things like that. So Michaela, when you get a quick moment, and I'm not shouting at you to flip slides, if you would just link that specific website into the chat for everybody, take a peek, explore what's there, meet some new organizations. Okay, so why are we here? Why digital literacy? The Colorado Refugee Connect team last summer had surveyed a number of our partners and said, how can we support you more? What are some of the shared needs of our community that we can support you with. And one of the common themes was people saying, I need to know about more resources. I'm feeling burnt out. I'm feeling stressed. Working directly with refugees while we have few resources as an organization is challenging. And so one of the themes that kept kind of rising to the top was issues around digital literacy. And I know we have a lot of experts, collaborators, partners here who we were able to bring together. And so it's really a way to resource you, but also elevate this kind of conversation today. Couple of housekeeping items real quick. The webinar is being recorded. We'll be able to send that out as a resource and a follow-up for all of you. Also for people who registered but weren't able to attend, we'll be able to share out those slides so you don't have to take frantic notes if you don't want to. If you'd like to take frantic notes, you are welcome to take frantic notes. And if you would like to ask questions in the chat during the meeting, you're welcome to do that. If they're small kind of procedural questions, we'll try to answer them in real time. If they're bigger picture questions, we'll save them for the Q&A at the end. And great. I think that's it on housekeeping. I don't know if there's any other housekeeping items that I need to. Oh, wait, one more second. It's okay. Just talking about the flow of where we will go from here. So in terms of the content, we're going to start really at a high level, at the state level, and we'll start with my colleague from the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, Melanie Coletti, who is the Digital Access and Empowerment Manager, and she's going to really look at what's the state level plan? How did the state listen to communities and learn from communities? What's some of the regional work that's taking place right now? So really that state level and moving into a regional level view. Then we'll turn it over to Lenny Pollock, who's the Executive Director of Teach by Tech. And I think see Lenny's face there as well. She'll help us explore a little bit more about what digital literacy is, what are some of the challenges and opportunities that refugees and immigrants are facing, and share a little bit more about her programs that she leads. And then last but not least, we have Branzel Portia, who's the Digital Navigation Program Director at the Learning Source. She'll share a bit more about their program model, how it's reaching across the state, and how you can access some of those resources as well. We'll take a little bit of time for a shared Q&A, and then we'll end the formal webinar at 1 o'clock, no later. There will be an optional chance to kind of stick around for more of a meeting, not really a webinar. We know people want to keep these conversations going, so we'll essentially elevate attendees up to panelists if you want to stick around. Zero pressure to do so, and we'll stop recording at that time as well. That is enough talking from me, and I will turn it on over. Please help me to welcome Melanie.
Thank you so much, Meg. I'm really glad to be here, and I know I recognize some of the names on the attendee list, so apologies if you've heard this one already. I do want to talk about really broad state level work that we're doing as part of the digital equity team here at the Office of Future of Work. So next slide, Michaela. These slides have a lot of writing on them, and they are that way so that you can look at them later. I know Meg is going to send these out later on. So long story short, we started this work in 2022, and we received some funding, almost $1 million from the federal government, from the Digital Equity Act, to come up with a plan to address digital access needs across the state. And what we mean by digital access is, do people have a way to connect to the internet reliably? Do they have a device to connect to the internet with? And are they able to use whatever device they're connecting with, whether it's a phone or a tablet or a computer? So we got our plan approved, and we were expecting $20 million. However, right after we got our plan approved, we heard that we would only be receiving $12 million and then hopefully another 4 and another 4. That didn't pan out. So we do have $12 million to spend right now, and we are using that to implement some of the plan that we wrote back in 2023. Next slide. So this is also for your use. I wanted you to know where we got some of our data from as we were writing the plan. But one of the things that I will talk about that isn't on the screen yet is I'm really proud of the work that our team did to engage people of lots of different types as we were writing the plan. We partnered with community-based organizations to not only help people complete a survey that we launched back in 2023. We launched it in 19 languages. We got responses in 17, and we also worked with those community-based organizations. We paid them to bring people together to talk about the plan, to give us ideas about their own experience. And that was also a really, really diverse group of people. We got about 5,000 respondents on the survey and the listening sessions. And then we also used some other data that was available online that you can see here. Next slide. So again, these are the languages that we offered the survey in. It was online, but that's why we worked with community-based organizations to help people through it. So obviously English was the most commonly used language to respond, with Spanish right behind it. Simplified Chinese was very popular too because of the organizations that helped us with the survey. So you know, we heard some things from people who are not originally from the United States, and that was really great because it did really inform our plan. Next slide, please. What I want to talk about today and emphasize for all of you is the state is working on digital access for everyone. And there are cover populations that the legislation, the federal legislation that's paying for this work, expects us to address. And those are all the ones that you see both on the top row and on the white column on the left side. We also added in to those 8 cover populations, which are older adults, veterans, people with disabilities, people with limited language proficiency, minorities, tribal members, rural residents, and low-income households. We added immigrants and unhoused individuals, even though that wasn't in the legislation. And what you see here is the intersection of people who identified as being immigrants on our survey, along with their intersecting identities that they chose. So you'll see that 20% of the immigrants who responded to our survey are also older adults. 7% are also veterans. 6% are people who have disabilities. Obviously, we have a very high number of people who have immigrated here who are not quite proficient in English language, but this also includes people who may just have different literacy issues. And it's not a matter of which language or languages they speak in addition to English. Let's see. So anyway, that's how you read this chart, and you're welcome to, like I said, go through this again if you like later. Next slide, please. All right, so these are some of the things we heard from folks in our survey and in our listening sessions, and this will not surprise probably most of you on this call. People are worried about their privacy and security. People don't know where to get help if they don't know how to use computers. Lots of people only use a smartphone to get online, which is fine for some things. Not great if you are hoping to work remotely or hybrid, or if you're trying to take, for example, a class online. A computer would be better for that. The other thing we want to just recognize is that all of the devices and the service needed to connect to the internet can be really expensive, and it can be hard for people to afford. Next slide, please. These are the original 6 strategies we wrote in our plan based on the feedback that we got. And unfortunately, because we're only getting just a little over half of the funding we expected to receive, we're really focusing on number 1, which is creating a digital access ecosystem. And what we mean by that basically is we're building digital access coalitions so that communities can decide what they need to ensure that the people that they call neighbors and friends are able to access the internet the ways that they want to. 2 through 6, a lot of that is promotion and awareness of opportunities that already exist. We know that a lot of people don't understand that there are still people across the state and actually across the country who are not able to access the internet in a reliable way to do the things they need to do. Next slide. So these are our adjusted priorities here. We are making coalitions, and the reason for that is because we can increase awareness. We can have communities tell us what they need instead of us making an assumption about what they need. We also want to make sure that the coalitions don't have to report to us on the federal grants. We heard over and over again that people aren't able to do this. Sometimes a local government or an organization might have like 1 or 2 paid employees, and they don't have time or sometimes experience to apply for federal funds or state funds. So we wanted to make sure that didn't prevent them from getting funding. So we also hired a couple of new positions in our office, and that's mostly how we intend to do our work going forward. Next slide, please. All right, so this is an important slide. This is from the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and they are allies and partners with any practitioner, any government, anyone who is doing digital access work. They encourage states to create these coalitions if they don't exist already, because it can increase awareness about digital access. It lets people know, legislators and others, that people need devices, they need to know how to use them, and they need to be able to afford to connect to the internet. Then there's an alignment piece, meaning that we can think about a community deciding as a diverse community what the priorities are. So maybe in one community, it might be, we need more laptops for people. Or it might be, we have a lot of older adults in this community. We should probably have some older adult classes so that older adults can learn digital skills. So there's the alignment, and then there's the network. And this is where I think all of you become really important players in this work. As we set up coalitions across the state, we will want organizations that support refugees and immigrants and all of the other covered populations that we saw on the previous slide to participate in these coalitions. Because what we've seen as a state is that a lot of the work is very siloed, meaning, like a local government might think that there are certain needs based on what they know. And a refugee serving organization might think that there are certain needs that refugees and immigrants need. And then there might be a family service center that is focused on what kids need. And we know that all of those people have many different identities, and that the more we bring people together with diverse perspectives, the better we will be able to identify the most urgent priorities for a community. So that is why we are going with coalitions. And if we could go to the last slide, please. If you would like to learn more, you are always welcome to reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat, but we also have every other month meetings on the 4th Tuesdays from 12 to 1:30 on Zoom. We also have a newsletter that comes out monthly. And if you're in Denver, you should reach out to the Denver Digital Equity Coalition, because they will be the coalition for Denver. They are a little bit ahead of the game and are already holding Digital Equity Coalition meetings. So please connect with them, like I said, if you're in Denver. And that's all I have. I'm going to let Lenny and Branzel talk about some of the details of the digital access work they do.
All right, thanks, Melanie. I think I'm going to support a lot of the things that you were just saying, so that's fantastic. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today to discuss this very important issue in Colorado. As Meg and Melanie said, my name is Lenny Pollock. I'm the executive director at Teach by Tech, and we're a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering adult refugee and immigrant English language learners in the Denver metro area through our community-centered workforce development and digital inclusion programs. Next slide, please. So our mission is to build economic mobility and self-sufficiency by integrating vocational training and digital skills with language learning and cultural competency. So our programs are building confidence and capacity to navigate technology in work, education, and daily life. And by addressing barriers like language and access to devices, lack of culturally responsive instruction, we're able to close the digital divide and create more equitable opportunities for economic mobility and community engagement. Next slide, please. So before we get too deep into our discussion, I want to maybe reiterate what Melanie was saying or just add a little bit to it. When we're thinking about digital equity and digital inclusion, these are two terms that we often hear interchangeably, but they're really two distinct and different concepts. So digital equity is the goal. That's what we're all working towards. And digital inclusion is the work and activities needed to meet that goal. And that's predominantly what Teach by Tech is involved in. And of course, the problem is the digital divide. That's what we'd like to solve. Next slide, please. So you might be thinking, okay, why do we need to solve this problem? Well, you need to think, really big picture here. And digital equity, it impacts every aspect of our clients' lives. So if we can make digital equity a reality, then this will contribute to economic inclusion, linguistic inclusion, civic inclusion. And I'll let you look at this slide a little bit more later on. Next slide, please. So before we tackle any of our problems, we need to understand that problem. So through community surveys, as Melanie was talking about, conversations with clients, discussions with our local partners, we identified the main barriers to technology for our clients. And obviously, I'm sure all of us can agree, language barriers was the biggest issue. Most digital tools and platforms are not available in our learners' native languages, so it makes the instructions and the interfaces really difficult to understand. For us, transportation is a really big issue. Our students, they can't always get to classes and trainings. As most of you know, our clients, they're juggling a lot, work and caregiving, resettlement tasks. So they don't have a lot of time for structured classes. And there are self-paced learning options available, but regardless of where you were born, self-paced learning is really challenging to kind of stay on top of and meet your goals. And for many of our predominantly, well, in large part for our female clients, childcare is a major issue, which prevents them from accessing some of our trainings. As Melanie was saying, limited access to devices. So most of our clients do not have their own personal computers or tablets that they need for digital engagement. Now they do have smartphones, like we were just talking about. But what we're finding is that the smartphone, it's creating these rather large gaps in digital skills. They can make it work on their smartphone, but that's the only place that they can make it work. And they're not recognizing that some of those skills are transferable. If you can do it on a smartphone, it's the same idea using the computer. So we've really tried to incorporate phone basics into the beginning of all of our classes, just to build confidence in the students and show them that they already have a few more skills than they think they do. And I think with a lot of digital training, it's about confidence for our students. We're always telling them, like, you're not going to break the computer. Push buttons, see what happens. We can reset anything. So just play with your device. Again, as Melanie was saying, high cost is a real barrier for many of our students, and then infrastructure also. And I think that's throughout the state of Colorado. You also, at the end of this, we're going to look at some resources that we use in our classes, but you will find that a lot of digital training, it's not really accounting for the cultural differences in learning styles or contextual understanding. So that's something that we'll talk a little bit more about. And then many of our students, they don't have a lot of familiarity with technology, depending on where they have come from. So there is some fear or distrust of technology, and we need to overcome that. And then lastly, just having low literacy or numeracy skills in any language, that can make it really difficult to grasp digital concepts or follow instructions. So these are some of the main barriers that we are seeing. If you are seeing something different, I would please put it in the chat just to make us more aware, and I'd love to talk about it later as well. Next slide, please. So I think most of us in this call are pretty familiar with these barriers. You're probably seeing them in your working life each day as you're trying to help clients. We recognize that there is no single organization that can meet all of the complex needs of our refugee and immigrant communities. So we really need to work together to fill those critical gaps in service. And partnership is at the heart of Teach by Tech's approach. So our partners are really important. They allow us to build on one another's strengths, and they also help us to align our programming so that we're better serving our clients, so that we're not seeing repetition or duplication of some of the services. And this allows us to create a more seamless kind of experience for our learners who are navigating multiple systems. So we want to keep it as simple as we can. It already is challenging for our clients. So with this kind of collective approach, we are trying to maximize our impact, of course, but also build community trust and really foster those long-term pathways to stability and economic opportunities. And I think whenever you're in the nonprofit space or working with the refugee and immigrant population, the partnerships are essential. We are working in challenging times at the moment, so we really need to consider how we can leverage our resources, whether that's combining funding or technology, or our staff capacity to expand our digital literacy programs more effectively. I think we're going to have to be really creative when we're thinking about how we can reach a greater number of people. Collaborating with our community-based organizations, our libraries, our workforce centers, our resettlement agencies. This has been really helpful for Teach by Tech to reach the underserved communities and offer them trainings in trusted and accessible locations. And accessible is really key there, going back to that transportation barrier. And when you're thinking about your partners and who you're working with, for us, our partners are essential for those wraparound services. They can help with childcare or transportation or translation or housing questions. And these are really critical for our adult learners. So think about that with your partnerships. Working with workforce agencies, that helps us to recognize what are the skills most needed and how can we develop our curriculum to match those kind of real world job opportunities that are existing. And of course, the partnerships, I mean, this is how you build your sustainability when you have multiple partners kind of working for the same goal. I would say trust is always something that needs to be earned and built within all of our programs. So when you're working with the resettlement agencies, working with these community-based organizations, that's really helpful to overcome those fears and kind of the skepticism that some people might have. And then I can't reiterate this enough, kind of building on what Melanie was saying. Our partnerships are essential so that we can amplify our advocacy efforts. This is going to influence the equitable digital inclusion policies at the local and state level, and this is really essential so that we can, we can alleviate the digital divide and meet our goal of digital equity. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've talked about the problem, and I'm sure a lot of you recognize the problem. You're familiar with the barriers. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the solutions that Teach by Tech has found to be quite beneficial. So we designed a mobile computer lab. So we travel with computers and hotspots to partner locations to provide the computer classes. We build our curriculum around real world tasks that our adults encounter at home, in the workplace, or within their communities. And instead of focusing on kind of abstract computer concepts, we guide, and that's kind of the key word there, guide our learners through meaningful activities like filling out online job applications, using email to communicate with employers or schools, navigating school portals. That's a big one. People do not know how to do that. Searching for jobs online, using Google Docs. So with this approach, again, we're trying to increase confidence. So it is building digital skills, but it also is building that confidence and independence for our learners and really giving them a sense of accomplishment. So we're really focused on centering that instruction around the realities of adult life, making technology accessible and relevant to our students. Some of you may be aware of North Star Digital Literacy. So we partner with North Star, which gives our participants an opportunity to test for credentials and the ability for guided practice and instruction outside of the classroom. And I think this is really important. Our learners, they need direct instruction on how to practice. You can't always just give them a link and say, do this. They need more guided instruction on how to do things outside of the classroom. And with North Star, students can see their progress. They can build out goals. And I don't know about you guys, but I have found that our clients really get excited about certificates. They just can't wait to get those certificates. Most of our classes are focused on the foundational skills, but depending on the skill level of students, we can incorporate more intermediate skills. So you just have to watch and see how quickly your students are progressing, or start off your classes asking about what skills they already have or how they're already using their computers. Next slide, please. So in our years of teaching these digital literacy classes, we've learned a few lessons. One of the biggest that we have learned is that if you can tie computer learning to employment goals, you have increased success. And two examples of this, so Teach by Tech partners with the Pomoja program and Empowering Communities Globally. These two programs, they train women to become ECE teachers or directors, and we provide the computer classes for the participants. So in these classes, we modify our hands-on application and activities to show relevance for ECE teachers. So how to use Indeed for a job search, how to navigate the internet to find lesson plans and ideas, how to write emails to communicate with parents, how to use Google Docs to create collaborative documents. So if you can make it relevant to the job, the participants can really see why that is important for them to learn. We cap our classes at 15 because this allows us that individual instruction and monitoring. So you really do need to be able to work with each student individually see their screen, make sure that they are mastering the skills that you're trying to teach them. And for our ECE computer classes, these cohorts have over an 87% completion rate, with 94% of those receiving credentials. So that's really outstanding, and we're really proud of those students. We also offer, we partner with DIA, and we offer a cashier and money handling class. And although this is not a standalone computer class like some of our other classes, we recognize that you have to have digital skills if you're going to be successful in this job. So we incorporate digital skills that are meaningful to the job, like product searches using online platforms, or Google Sheets for inventory, Google Docs to create your resume, filling out forms, processing refunds, things like that. So we're always thinking about the job of the goal. Next slide, please. So that being said, this is really difficult to do. In 2024, we received some excellent funding to make computer classes more available to a greater number of people. And we were working with resettlement agencies to create, schedule, and implement these cohorts. Because these agencies are really overworked, building cohorts around this employment goal is really challenging. So we have designed these cohorts around language, which means there's a wide variety of skill levels and different motivations for taking these classes. But you can use this to your advantage. Most students are really eager to build community and help their fellow students. So the more advanced students, you can have them assist the other students with reinforcing some of the skills they have mastered. And that's really cool when you see students helping students. That's my favorite part of the classroom. So our curriculum for these cohorts is built around more general needs. Email might look like writing to your caseworker. The internet is usually about job searches and safety online. We look at RTD Live to teach people how to get discounted passes. We talk a lot about our public libraries and the resources that are available. We love our public libraries. In these cohorts, we're also using an interpreter, and this has advantages and disadvantages, and we can talk about those more later if you'd like. So lastly, I want to talk about, again, it's really important for the partners to work together and determine the expectations for the class, create those general goals and the schedules. We found success with our general cohorts because we use relevant curriculum, our teachers build rapport with the students, but also because we set very clear expectations in the beginning of the class, and these are reinforced by the agency liaison. Next slide, please. So our cohorts, they're 5-week cohorts. They meet twice a week for 2-hour sessions. At the end of the session, students take in-person assessments for credentials. Next slide, please. Okay. Cohorts are administered in a hybrid form, and we found this really beneficial for our students. It offers our adult learners that flexibility to balance education with their other responsibilities, and it also allows them to access that content online while benefiting from in-person support. We have them start in person and then go online and then come back to in-person to end the class. That way, if there are questions that you really can only answer in person, they have the opportunity again. Our students have to attend at least 8 of the 10 sessions. If they miss more than that, they're not eligible for testing. Currently, we have generous funding that provides access to computers. So if students attend 8 of the 10 classes, they get to keep the computer at the end of the session. So we found that little carrot of credentials and computers has helped to keep attendance pretty steady. It's not as strong as the cohorts built around employment, but 84% complete the classes, and of those 83% are receiving credentials. So that's still really outstanding numbers. Next slide, please. So I'm going to stop talking really soon, but I want you to consider a few takeaways when you're thinking about creating your own digital literacy programs. Make your make your curriculum relevant to the students. Use hands-on activities that you can practice and witness in the classroom. Make them show you. I'm sure, as you all know, our students will nod their head and smile and say they understand, but they don't always. So make them show you. Take the classes to the community if you can. This will cut down on transportation barriers. Consider hybrid classes. Start in the classroom. Make sure they feel comfortable with moving online. This helps with childcare issues. If you can, build your cohorts around employment goals, and then set really clear expectations and build participant accountability in their own learning outcomes. And next slide, please. And so for all of our classes, we create a custom manual for the classes that the students can use. These are some of the resources that we use to adapt our curriculum. Some of these are free, some of these are paid. Please feel free to peruse them. And we end all of our classes with testing, but we also highlight the digital navigator programs, especially in our public libraries. We encourage our participants to use these resources for continued learning and questions, even after they leave our classes. And as you know, making people aware of the service available is half the battle. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Branzel to give you more on the digital navigator programs. Take it away, Branzel.
Thank you, Linny. Wow, such great information, Linny and Melanie. Just want to thank everybody for being here, and thank you for your commitment to serving our immigrant and refugee communities. It's super exciting to be here. My name is Branzel Portia, and I get to oversee the Learning Sources Digital Navigation Program. And it's really exciting because this is a brand new program that just started 2 years ago in 2023. So I'm excited to show you a little bit more about it. You'll see some pictures of our digital navigators throughout the presentation. And essentially, they are champions for the community. They meet primarily one-on-one with a community member. And so you'll see that throughout the pictures. This service would not be possible at all without our partnership with Serve Colorado, Comcast, and the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, where Melanie works. So want to shout out them and say thank you for that, because as Linny mentioned, digital skills is the future. Digital skills are important in over 90% of the jobs coming available. And so besides job upskilling, it's also just a social detriment of health that our communities are able to navigate the digital world with confidence and security. And so the program I oversee really equips Coloradoans with those skills, with the devices and confidence to navigate the digital world. Next slide, please. And the ally that Melanie mentioned at the beginning of her presentation, National Digital Inclusion Alliance, has a great quote about what digital navigators do. And I love this. They consistently provide holistic, individualized support through repeated interactions. And so that is what we strive to do, whether someone is coming in for the first time for their digital skills journey, whether they're hoping to upskill and gain a credential, or learn how to navigate the online school portal. We try to really build that relationship and put that customer service experience first, learn about them holistically as a person, make sure that they feel seen and heard. And then we support them and learn about where they're trying to go and the life they're trying to build, and offer that one-on-one support with them to get the outcome that they hope to do. And so that's with repeated interactions. And you can see our digital navigator here, Lily, helping to community members at a Commune Denver site. Next slide, please. And our impact since launching 2 years ago has been wonderful. And it's just to the thanks and just amazingness of our partners and supporters of the host sites that we are at. We're at 25 plus partner sites throughout the state, and that's where the digital navigators are. Later, I'll give you a list of where you can find them, but it's been phenomenal to, like Lindsay said, work with those partners, build partnerships to help the community. And I guess I'll explain a little bit more in the next few slides about what those digital navigation appointments look like. But right here, you see Deanna, our amazing navigator, helping a community member at Project Worthmore. And I am excited to kind of delve deeper into what a digital navigation appointment looks like. Next slide, please. Oh, here's another great class that digital navigators put on at Boston Elementary School over in the Aurora Public School District. And from then, after the class, they were able to work with digital navigators in one-on-one appointments based on what they needed and what gaps they needed to fill after they had this class. Next slide, please. And so here is sort of a general broad list of what our digital navigators offer. They do appointments from 30 minutes to 2 hours, really depending on how long the community member needs the help and the support. Like I said, a lot of times too, we see that the community member needs someone to understand and listen to them and understand the goals that they're trying to reach. And that takes time. Our digital navigators have that time to listen to that. And so I love that aspect of our championing the goals of what our community members have. Besides that, we offer basic computer and internet skills and just kind of a myriad of different other skills. The one that I really appreciate is what Linny also mentioned, which is that North Star Digital Literacy Certification. This is an internationally recognized certificate that community members can test and receive a free certificate for the skills that they build with us. And besides that, like you saw in the other slide, we are also able to provide free computers and affordable internet to those who need it and qualify for that. Next slide, please. Serving immigrant and refugee communities has been one of our goals from the beginning of the launch of our program. We're really hoping to delve deeper into underserved populations. And so right now our team of 18 digital navigators speaks 8 languages. And so it's awesome that we can kind of mix and match them around to the communities that the language that they speak, so that the person feels heard and understood and just feels more comfortable and safe, because we want our community members to feel safe and trusted as they continue in their digital journey. And as you can see too, just the customized one-on-one and small group support in that bullet, I think is really, really helpful, that we have the one-on-one engagement where someone can really sit next to the community member and walk them through step by step what they need to do, and then repeat that over and over again until they feel comfortable doing it on their own. We also have language link support and translation support. So if we have a community member where one of our digital navigators doesn't speak that language, we're able to still help and still build that community relationship with that community, even though we don't necessarily speak that language. So I appreciate translation services now that allow us to do that. And these are 4 of our digital navigators helping at the New Americans Fair just recently at the Eloise May Library. It's a wonderful fair. Where to find a digital navigator? So we are kind of spread out. We serve 17 counties across Colorado, and those look like, I guess, a lot of different locations in different places, including senior centers and colleges. We have some housing communities and nonprofit organizations. I've linked a complete list of locations that you can kind of peruse and see which one is closest to you and what would help your community. And then also our staff can help you find the one that's closest to you. On our website, we have a contact form where we can place you with a digital navigator. And that's that 3rd bullet point down on our website. And then I've also just put our contact information for our digital navigators in a list, so you can just look at those too and see what languages they speak, and maybe that might help too. And this is Kendra at the Denver Housing Authority, waiting for her next appointment. Thanks, Michaela. Okay, next slide. And I wanted to highlight, first of all, I love this picture. This is one of our digital navigators, Abib, standing with a community member who earned their North Star Digital Literacy Certificate. And he was so excited. I love this because I love being able to help people upskill and really envision the life they see for themselves. The spotlighted locations on your screen right now are locations where we predominantly see immigrant and refugee communities. And so I just wanted to highlight those. And in bold are the digital navigators' names that you can reach out to on the contact list link. Next slide. And then here is just resources. I also have put, like I think Lenny and Melanie, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, along with a few of our learning source resources. We have a resource document, a newsletter that we put out every month, just kind of highlighting our community member stories and successes. And then that first link is the digital navigation website and contact form where you can request a digital navigator near you. And that is it for me. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you, Branzel. I will invite co-panelists to come back on camera with me. And Michaela, you can close out the slides for now. Attendees, we have 7 minutes. And I told you already to think of questions so that I don't have to keep talking. But please think of questions. I want to share just a couple quick reflections, and then hopefully you will have popped a question in the chat by then. One reflection I have is the importance of the alignment between refugees and people without refugee identities. I was looking at Melanie's kind of columns of folks, and there's places and ways where we say refugees are unique, refugees may be different. And part of that is true. And then part of that is saying how in fact, because refugees are people, are they much like older adults or veterans or people who are low income? Individuals living with disabilities, and how in fact do they share some of those identities as well. I think Linny, you spoke a lot about partnerships. I noticed your pictures were from ACC, and just the fact that all of this is really happening via partnership. We kind of can't do it without partnership. So really that encouragement to continue partnering. And I think one of the things I'm also struck by is both the importance of the direct help, so that the navigation in real time to address a particular task alongside the skill building is that we need both. And I know from my state perspective, sometimes we say, we want the task to get done. We want the person to get in the job, but look at how much work is happening really to kind of get there. So with that, I also want to appreciate the panelists, the organizations you guys represent around how much work is happening, right? How much work it takes to get someone to getting that RTD Live Pass or getting that job. I'm seeing some things in the chat. Okay, a question I don't know the answer to. Has anyone used the service TechSoup before? Linny, you look like you may be trying to answer.
There we go. Yes, we use TechSoup. You can get really cheap hotspots on TechSoup. So those of you that need those, I encourage you to buy them. And then some, depending on what your software needs are, you can get a lot of software. We also have had some success with Digit Unity, becoming a member there and getting laptops from people within the community who no longer need those laptops. Sometimes the laptops are really helpful and you can give them out to your community members. Sometimes they're really old. So just make sure you look at the specs before you agree to accept the donation.
Thank you, Linny. A question from Tiffany Andrews. Good question. Can digital navigators support with benefits related tech skills like the Peak website?
Yes, they can. And we do. It's been great.
I have a question for the panel. how would you request partners on the call? I noticed a lot of partners came from K-12 education, some from mental health, some from the workforce side. What would you ask of them in terms of how they support you in this work, right? That their core work may not become digital literacy and digital navigation, but what could they do better or differently?
I know for me, I can answer that very easily because that is part of what we're hoping to achieve is to have these coalitions that have participation from lots of different types of organizations so that they can learn to understand each other and the communities that they are individually serving. Once a community can say, you know, we have about this many people who identify as this or that, and we know exactly what resources they already have and which ones they need, it's easier to align funding to that work. And so that's sort of the way we are looking at it from a state perspective.
Okay, my colleagues are coming through now. My attendees are coming through. Louise Aliafori is with Diversified, and she shares the question. We are in our first month of digital literacy classes for adults in Colorado Springs in collaboration with another org, One World Quest. First question, there are no digital navigators for any of your teams in the Springs, correct? I think that's a Branzel question. And then possibly for Linny, can you expand on the pluses and minuses of interpretation for on-site classes?
Correct. We're currently not in Colorado Springs, but hopefully one day.
So I think it depends on what is your goal for the digital literacy classes. And honestly, I go back and forth all the time because English language is essential for our students to get those quality living wage jobs. But sometimes you need the computer skills and the English will come later. So if your goal is simply getting those those computer skills, then absolutely have that interpreter in the classroom. It's building those skills in a much quicker way than if English language is your goal, then it's going to be slower because you're teaching English along with those digital skills. So that's what I mean when I'm saying interpreters have their advantages and disadvantages. What's your primary goal? Is it English? Is it computer skills?
What I really love in the chat is just how many people want to say hi to Linny. You know, seems like you know a couple people. I am alert to time, and I know that people run on tight schedules. So I want to formally appreciate our incredible panelists. I really appreciated the view, kind of high level, all the way down to the real details of supporting people with kind of day-to-day digital tasks. So thank you all for your time, your energy. We will make sure to share out these resources with everyone so that you have them. You have links you can click on. You can follow up with people. And if you can't find where something is, you can always message us back at the Colorado Refugee Connect email or whatever email sends out that follow-up. So we can send off people who need to depart for something at 1 o'clock or who don't want to stick around. And then if you do want to stick around, we actually don't know what's going to happen. And so stick around if you want to be a part of what happens. It'll be a meeting, it'll be a conversation, and it may go to 1:30, it may go to 1:15. We'll kind of play it by ear. So we're seeing everyone. Natalia's laughing. We could go ahead and end that recording, Michaela, so we don't record the broader part.